welcome to this LecturePRO demo. Today we're going to look at sharing via Teams. You'll see I have a PowerPoint already here on my screen with a number of slides we can click through, just as demo data if you like. Let's start that one into slideshow mode, and you can see that's all there. Great. Next we're going to start LecturePRO, so let's double click on the LecturePRO icon and get that started. So you see I've got two webcams at the moment set up here, and you could configure the webcams using the webcam button on this controller if you need to, so you can turn cameras on or off. So I've got two on the go, and I'm going to put this front facing camera down in the bottom right, and I don't need this overhead camera just yet. I'm going to start a layout A with just myself, so that I can use that as I go through the slides teaching. And then with layout B, I'm going to set this overhead camera to be full screen. So I'm going to click on that, and there we go. It's just going to sort the camera out and try and set a high resolution. Oh, that looks alright. No, it's a bit, this camera's not very friendly. Let's try a different resolution. So if you find you've got cameras that are unstable, giving you shaky views or something, give them a few seconds to settle down, but if they don't, just change the webcam resolution and find something that works better with that camera. Great. So we've now got that working. I'm going to pull this off screen. So you've got layout A and layout B, and I'm just going to click the go live button now so I can test those. That's great. So now we've got our LecturePRO webcam window sat in front of the PowerPoint. So that's working fine. This sits there. So now we just need to start Teams. So here's Teams, here's a meeting that I've set up earlier, so I'm just going to join it like you'd join any meeting, and I've got another computer next to me set up trying to join, so as though it were a student. I'm not going to have a camera on this Teams thing because we've already got a camera running in LecturePRO we're going to broadcast. So let's join this meeting, and it says waiting for others to join, and we could admit someone who's in the lobby, and that's a student or me on the other computer on the other side. So this is now me, but in a different chair as a student over there. Right. So we're now connected to a meeting. I'm going to minimize this one where we click the join button. We don't need that on view. And this window, which is the one where we're currently broadcasting and connected to someone else, I'm going to use the share content button. And instead of just clicking a certain window to share, I'm going to share a whole desktop, and the one that's got this LecturePRO PowerPoint on it. Now you can see Teams puts a nice red line around the window you're sharing, so we know this is what's being shared, and we can now minimize that button. So now we're in a position where we've got Teams running, sharing our PowerPoint with our LecturePRO over the top, so we could then once students have all joined, we can click through our PowerPoint, talk through our points as we need to. When we get to a point we're ready for a practical demonstration, which we want to do in a socially distanced, safe way, we can use layout B where we've got an overhead camera, and this is where we could be doing some demonstration work, setting something up, building something, showing a lab experiment. Perhaps this camera is actually on an angle, looking up at a wider shot, and maybe we've got a couple of those dotted around a larger room, perhaps for dance or sports students, so you can record and look at exercises in a bigger scale. So you've got almost two options, close up or a wider angle with this, but it allows you to share exactly what you're doing with the students. You can sat in the room close up if you need to, but also those socially distanced at home who are watching synchronously using Teams. So perhaps once you've finished your demo, you'll click LecturePRO to go back to layout A, and you could then carry on with your PowerPoint. Perhaps you've got some summing up slides at the end of your practical before your students finish, and then you're done. Once you're finished, you can bring back the Teams window where you're sharing. You can stop sharing and leave the meeting. Before you do that, perhaps you want to look at comments, or you may have been looking at them throughout, or have someone else watching them, and so you could check those out, discuss those with students, answer some questions and queries before you finish up for the day. And then we can click the stop sharing button, and we can leave the meeting because we're all done. Great, and that's us done. That's a quick and fairly simple demo of LecturePRO, PowerPoint and sharing via Teams. So we're just about to share the screen using Teams, and there you can see it's now popped up. This is what the student can see on their screen remotely, so they can see themselves at the moment, and we're going to minimize that window of them, which will have other students in Windows as well. And this is what they're seeing on their screen. So they've got the annoying Teams bar, which I probably should have moved the mouse out of the way, and I apologise for the speaker volume low box there. I turned the volume down so we didn't get feedback on the other video. But this is the lecturer presenting those slides, talking through bullet points, whatever they might want to discuss with picture-in-picture. And then there was a switch across to the full screen overhead camera. There we are. And you can see that although it was a bit jerky the video earlier in this video in the setup, I think it was how I was recording locally, but you can see the student experience there. The movement is fluent, it's working fine, and had I had the volume up, we could have shown you it in all its glory. So perhaps I will redo this at some point later on. So then towards the end of this, you'll see it switches back, because I think we turned off the overhead view, didn't we? And switched it back to the PowerPoint slide at the end to finish that piece with the student. There you go. And that worked fine. And you can see the lecturer would have finished off delivering to the student there. And you can see the student's got icons down the very bottom of people in the meeting. There's an RB there for initials of someone. And there may be other boxes there of video from students if they were sharing their end. But you can see that the whole screen is consumed with what we want to show the student, and we're in total control of that. That's us looking at the chat there at the end of the PowerPoint and the presentation to the student. So all in all, looks pretty good. Thank you for watching.